Hello, Teresa Baker here, and we're going to go through Module 7 assignment. We're going to enter in some data into our existing classic project and do a few fun things while we're at it. So here's our rubric for you to know what items you need to do. We're going to start by adding in 10 unique records. So I'm going to go to my classic project page, and from my classic project on the home page, I've logged in, I've gotten to where I need to be. I have a few different options for how I'm going to enter my data. I'm going to start by going to the survey distribution tools on the left-hand side over here. And on this page is where you're going to find your public survey link. You have a few options. You can copy the large link. You can open a public survey link. You can locate your QR code here. I often will get this QR code a little bit bigger because an ideal size for a QR code is minimum of 2 inches by 2 inches. And I'll often just use my snipping tool to cut my QR code out of this. And now I can save it and I can place it in a flyer or do whatever I need to do with this QR code. So that is one option. You can also take this long public survey link and you can create a short link or a custom link. If you make a custom link, you cannot use a word that's been used before. And if your links break, then your custom link will be gone forever and you will never be able to use it again. How would a link break? A perfect example of how a link breaks is if you take the link, the public survey link is attached to the first instrument. You have to have the first instrument be a survey in order to use the ability to have a public survey link. So if you take your first instrument and you move it, like you pick it up and you move it down to the second, or you put another one above it in that spot, that instrument is no longer the first instrument, and now you have a new public survey link. So that's how that would happen. I'm going to open up my public survey link and I'm just going to fill out my survey here so that I can get some test data in here. I want to make sure that I try to hit a few different options so that I have the ability to do my reports and filtering later on and show you how that would work. And I want to make sure I test things, for example, my calculations. So make sure that the data makes sense for whatever it is your calculation looks like. So we're just going to put a few items in each of these. I'm at the end of my survey, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close my survey. If I was the participant and I close the survey, I go to whatever it is I have in the background. But because I had this open, the project open already, it's taking me back to my other tab, my other screen. Okay, another option would be to use the participant list here, and I can either add a new participant, or I could, here, I think that's right. I hope that's right. Okay, so what I could do then, now I've added this person. Now you can kind of see on this list that these two people are records 1 and number 2. They are not anonymous because I connected them already by saying that I validated the email field as an email, and I already said that my email field was connected. So I could also enable an identifier here and have a secondary connection there if I wanted to. But this has already been, I've already said that this is identified. So this is considered a confidential but not anonymous survey. You can see that I have a green check mark for these two people because the person not only received it, but they opened it and they completed it in the survey mode. I could resend an invitation over here if it had not been done already. I can also see what their personal QR code is. This QR code goes with record number 2. And this QR code here goes with record number 1. I can also go to their survey queue if I wanted to and grab that for them. Okay. So you can see this person here has not opened their survey and they have not completed their survey. It's gray, there's nothing here. So let me just correlate that for you with the dashboard. If I'm looking at the dashboard, I can see that record number 1 is here and record number 2 is here, and there is nothing there for my third person. So there's no record here. It's not been attached to my database. It does not exist. Let's just open this person's, well, here, let's see if, hopefully, if we did it, oh, we need to compose. That's what we need to do. Let's compose something, make it go immediately. We'll make it come from me and go to me. And now on the right-hand side over here, I can say who I want it to go to. I can have a check down box with all kinds of action items for who I might want to send it to. Over here, I can also enable reminders to tell the person, hey, don't forget to come back and do this. And I can customize my message here. Let's see here. So I just want to send it to the person that has not finished theirs. So I'm going to send the invitation. Now, this might be a problem. Okay, we're not going to be able to do that. That's because we are in the training module and they do not have the cron job turned on for this particular instance. In a live instance, this would have worked, but we're not in one. So we're going to pretend it went. We're going to pretend it did its thing. And we're going to pretend I got an email and I opened the email. So now I am going to fill this out. But you know what? I got here and I walked away and I quit. So what I'm going to do, I hit the next button or I hit the submit button. I'm going to close it. And then I want to refresh this page so I can show you. Now, I hit the submit button on survey introduction, which is why I grid a green button here. If I were to come over here to contact, which is my second instrument, you'll see that this person, the record is hidden, has not finished this one. This has not been connected. So let's go over to our record status dashboard and you can see here's my person. And this person did the introduction, but they did not do any of the other items. So if we wanted to just send the second piece to all the people that didn't finish it, I could come back over here to the participant list and I could compose an email that goes to the people that did that. Now we already know that's not going to work, so we're not going to do it. Now let me just open my link back up and put some more test data in here. Okay, we'll close that one out. Now, if I refresh this, you'll see that I'm in the contact instrument, and this person now has a record, and they have finished it. If I come back over here to my record status dashboard, I will see that the person's record is here, and I can see that they have finished these 3. Okay, so another way for me to do this would be if I was the researcher and I wanted to add information in with my add edit record. So we're going to go to, we've logged in, or my intern's logged in, or my staff's logged in, or somebody on the team has logged in. They have the ability to add records. So they come over here on the left-hand side and they do add edit record. And from here, they could go manually and pick a person that exists and add information to that person. Or I can hit this big green button that says add a new record. Now this is called the data form. You can see that there's a record homepage right here. It belongs to record number 4. Once the record's created, if you have the privileges, there'll be all kinds of, there's a drop-down button here with things you can do. And depending how complicated your project is, this thing could get pretty wieldy and big. So something to take into consideration. Now, this here is a hidden field that it's hidden on the instrument when it's a survey, but it's not hidden from the data form. So now that we're entering from a data form, we can see this, whereas we wouldn't have been able to see it before. And I can not only do that, but I can also decide what status my item is going to be. So if I do incomplete, it's going to make a red bubble. If I do unverified, it will be a yellow bubble. And if I do green, it will be a complete bubble. And I could also lock this instrument because I have the ability to do that. If I lock the instrument, you have to have the ability to unlock it in order to edit it. I'm not going to do that. So if you need the legend for what the bubbles could possibly be, here they are. Uh, a- the ones on the left are for data entry forms, and these ones that have a check mark are if it was a participant that filled it out and they either this would be like they save and they save and left, or they didn't finish. Um, and this would be if they submitted it, they got all the way to the end and they completed the entire thing. Okay, so you can see I've got a green bubble here. When I was done, it took me back to the records homepage. And so now let's go into contact and we'll put some items here. And then just so I can show you different colored bubbles, I'll do it this way. That's an unverified one. And you can see by looking at this that there is additional options that were hidden before. And I'll keep this one incomplete so you can save that. There are also different ways that you could save. So the first one is save and exit form. When you save and exit, it's going to automatically take you to the record status dashboard for that record. You can save and stay. You can save and go straight to the next form. You can save and mark it as complete. You can save and exit the record. If you exit the record, it takes you back to the home page. You could save and go to the next record. So I'm going to say save and exit record so that you can see what happens there. It took me back to the add edit record page. Let's add a new one again. So how many did I say we had to do? We have to do 10. We've got to do a few here. I'm just trying to give you all the different possibilities. Okay, so if I were to do save and next form, it would go straight into the next form that's after this one, which is kind of a nice feature. And if I were to say save and go to the next record, it would automatically open up the next one if I was able to do that. Okay, another option I have is I could come down here and I could say, I could look at all fields, or I could say, I want to look at record number 4. And it's going to say, oh, there's record number 4. Now, when I pull record number 4 up, it always starts on the first instrument, but maybe I don't want to be on the first instrument. Maybe I want to be on the records homepage. So on the left-hand side here, where it says record ID 4, I could click on this and it'll take me to the homepage. I can also use that, let me go back for a moment. So I could also use this section over here to do things like just quickly go to another piece, or I could select another record. Now, if you are doing this longitudinal, you would be in the instrument that you are in, and hopefully you'll be able to see that later on when we get to longitudinal projects. So this person is complete, I do believe. It looks complete to me. So far we got 5. Let's do the other 5 via the import. So on the left-hand side over here where it says data import tool, you can download your data with the import templates. Usually your data comes in rows. That's the most common way that you would be playing with your data. But they do offer you the option for columns if that is the way you want to do things. So if I were to pull it up, it's going to give me a CSV file, and all it has in it is the first header, the first row is my heading with each of my variable names the way that they have them set up in have them set up in the, what do they call that? The code book or the data dictionary. I do think it's kind of important to pay attention to a few things. But before I do that, I think what I want to do is I want to show you how I usually do this. My way of doing this usually, instead of going to the import tool, I go to the data export, and I usually export my data, and I do it in the raw fashion. And the reason I do it this way is because it tells me, it'll give me information like what's my last record and which one do I need to add, and it helps me identify if I'm in the correct format and if I need to go check the formats and stuff like that. Okay, so these are always hard to read, but there's a few things you might need to kind of take note of here. So let's just start by taking a look at these items here. So this column right here is a REDCap column. That belongs to REDCap. It always has to be the first column. This REDCap survey identifier is, if you have connected the two, you would get something here. If you're importing this way, you actually have to delete this. Again, this is a REDCap one. I'm going to end up having to delete this one in a moment, but I'm going to highlight the ones that REDCap put here. Because this was done in a survey, it captures the survey time slot of when it occurred. But if you take a notice here, you'll see that these three right here are surveys, and these two right here do not have any times, and that's because these are data forms. So if you really quickly want to be like, well, was it done in a survey or was it done in a data form? By looking at the timestamp, you can do that. And for every survey that you have, so if you have an instrument enabled as a survey, it's going to do the same thing. It's always going to put underscore timestamp behind whatever the name of your instrument is. Okay, so these pieces right here are mine. I made these right here. Okay, so those belong to me. Now, the next thing that's kind of important to recognize is this column right here. Just like the other one, whenever you have an instrument that and you export it out, it's going to add this thing called underscore complete on the back end of the name of that instrument. So this instrument was called introduction, so introduction underscore complete. These numbers here correlate with the color of the bubble. So number 2 means green, a number 1 means yellow, a number 0 means red. If you upload something and you don't put anything in this column, it will automatically become a red bubble, a yellow, it'll automatically put a 0 there. So again, you can see this was done in a what do you call that? A survey. And these are mine right here. So I'm just going to try to highlight some of these pieces so you can see the structure. And then here's the next one that is the bubbles. This is the complete instrument. So you can see these are green bubbles. Here's a yellow bubble, and here is a green bubble. And then this is a timestamp again. And I have some of my values right here. And this one right here is the third one, which is the build complete. And in this one, I did have a red one, a red bubble right here. So you can see the 0 is red bubble. Now, I don't have anything in these other columns at the moment. They are empty, but and they are also not surveys, so you can see it's missing the timestamp. And these here are those complete fields with the bubbles. So red bubbles. Right now, they're actually blank bubbles, but if I were to upload anything at the moment without deleting these columns, they would become red. It's going to force me to do that if I'm not paying attention. Okay, so I need 10 because I said a minimum of 10, but I like more because the more data options you have, the better you're filtering. We need to get rid of this column right here. I'm going to delete the column so that I can upload things. I also cannot have a timestamp column, so I deleted that column. So each of these timestamp columns, oh wait, I want to keep that. Keep the one that says complete, delete the one that says timestamp on it, because I cannot do anything with that. And let's start there. Okay, so I wonder, I mean, it might not be happy with me for not having a time here because it says it's a date time. In fact, what it's going to do is it's going to put midnight automatically there. I'm not going to have much choice on that one. So my choices here are ones and zeros. So because it's a yes, no field. And if you're curious as to how do you know what to do, you can come back and go to your code book and you could say intro and interest, 0 equals yes, and 1 equals yes and 0 equals no. So that is a possibility. And you can see here intro interest. Okay, and then I just am going to leave these the way it is, and I'll let REDCap automatically make them all red so you can see that that is what occurs. So, okay, that's nice. Did I miss one? Oh, I only went to 19. That's okay. Okay. And then I just want to be able to do some data. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. So what I'm gonna do, because if I was doing real data, I'd be paying attention to what I was doing, but this is all fake data. So there, I'm gonna pretend that that's what I did. And I do need to, why is this happening this way? This makes no sense to me. What's going on here? Type project 2. So let's go take a look at what's going on there, because that makes no sense to me. Type project 2. That looks almost like an error. Longitudinal. So it should have like a 1 or 2 next to it. Is this a checkbox? Here it is. It says checkbox. It says it's required. And if I have a 1 here, this has to be a 0. So I don't know why it did this. I'm sure there's a reason. It's probably because it's not happy with me. Let's just fix some of this so that this is good, because what it'll do is it's going to let me show you what happens if you have to go through an adjudication process. And then this is a 0. So these ones here are checkboxes, which is why, because it can be binary. It's either checked or not checked. So I don't know why it did that. Now this is an end build. An end build is just a number. So like, I could have like 5, 4, 2, 28. Wow, that's a lot. Oops. 1. Now, because I did it as a drop down, I just have to make sure I didn't go over 151 because that's what my options were. And then I'm going to make all of these complete, so there'll be green bubbles, and you can see what that looks like. Now for my consent view, I just want to do the same thing that I did before, except, oh wait, that would be a 1. We need some different, just so we can see that they'd be different. Now this is going to be a little dangerous because you don't ever want your calculated field to be imported. You could import a calculated field. It'll turn a yellow color, but it's very dangerous. I would rather just use the data quality module and have it auto-calculate for me again. But I'm going to just use the same dates I had before. Again, I am going to use the same information here. Just want extra information. Okay, and then I'm going to leave this here. Now I want to delete this backend so that you can see what happens if I have something here and it's actually blank. So I want you to see what happens with the bubbles. Okay, so let me just back it up so you can see the big picture. You can see the number of items that are red. Those are REDCap created variables. They are not, this one here, the only one in this particular case that is required to be there is actually the first one. You don't actually need to enter these other ones here. In fact, let's just get rid of, here, let me go closer so you can see. This is introduction complete. I'm going to get rid of it so you can see that it still works even without it. So here's my instrument 1, here's my instrument 2, here's my instrument 3. And then, you know what, let's make these a whole bunch of ones so that you can see what a yellow button looks like. So green button, yellow button, red button. Okay, beautiful. And now I need to make sure that I save it as a CSV. So file, save as. Now, mine's already a CSV, but I'm going to pretend it's not. So I came down here and I clicked comma delimited, and it has a .csv. And then I want to change this to a different name. And I just want to, I know that it's in my download folder. Just pay attention to wherever you have downloaded it. Okay, so I saved it. Now, I don't like to close this yet because if I have an error, I might need to quickly fix it. And when you first start building, it's very common to have errors. Okay, so let's go back to our classic project. We're going to go to the import tool on the left-hand side over here. And whenever it's time for you to get ready to import, always like quadruple check that you are in the correct project. So I want to upload to my classic build. This is my classic build. I'm not in someone else's. And this is the project I want to upload to. So I'm going to come down here and select choose a file. And I'm going to go to my downloads and grab my test. Now, it gave me warnings, but it did not give me a red box, which is good. Red boxes I would not be happy with, but I can handle a yellow box if that's what I want. It's telling me here that I forgot to put the time in. Well, I did say that that's what was going to happen. So it started the time at midnight for me, so 00, so that it's in the correct format. Now, this is what's called the adjudication process. When you see something that's in black, that's data that was already there. It's not changing. Oh, that's new data. It's brand new. It's being added to the database. If it's gray data, it's already there. It's not being changed. Nothing's being altered. The REDCap's not going to touch that data. If it's a red text, that means that data is being overwritten. So you are changing that from like to something else. And this is where you want to like be very, very careful. If you see something that's in red ever in REDCap, you need to stop and you need to say, is this really what I want to do? Because you might be overwriting data, which is why this is an advanced skill. Okay, so your first set of 5 is what I created manually earlier, and it says existing record. You can see they are gray. And if I keep going down, you can see all my new ones have a green new record sign here. And you can see that they have black items, which is where new data is being entered. Now let's scroll over a bit because I know I changed a few items. So there's one. This is an existing record that is being changed from a 1 to a 0. And here's a few here that are being changed also. So that's what it would look like if you were changing records. Okay, I am happy. So I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to import my data. And then I have to be patient and I have to wait while it imports. If your table is really, really big, it could take a long time to import. Sometimes if you are in a really, really big situation, like a big project, you might need to chop it down into sections. So this one is 19 records and it imported them successful and they are in there. So now let's go over here to the record status dashboard and take a look. If I'm taking a look at my record status dashboard, I can see that I have the ones with a check mark are the ones that were completed in survey mode, and everything else is in data form mode. And you can see this one has a red button here. So if I open it, now this just occurred because I have it written as user username being automatically put in with a review tab. That's actually not saved in there. It's kind of confusing. If you look on the history tab, you can see there's no timestamp there, no user, there's no data there. This is not going to stay until I hit the save button. However, if I look at the history down here, I can see that at this date and time, this user, which is me, put in it in incomplete. This is what occurred when I imported a field. And so now this is a red button. Um, and yes, so if I leave this right now, if I do not save it, if I cancel it, this here will not be saved there. But if I save it, it's going to be there. So I do want to leave and not save. Okay, let's see here. What else do I need to show you? You can see the yellow ones mean incomplete or unverified, I mean. If I open that up, you can see it's unverified. I can switch it to complete. That's because this is not locked and I have the edit rights to do that. I can also turn this red one to complete, which is a really nice thing to do. You always have to save whenever you change or edit something. Let's go back to the record status dashboard, and that's looking pretty good. I personally am happy with this in terms of I have 10 records, I have enough data that I can create a report and I can filter. Um, the only other thing maybe I might want to show you is like I'm going to say this is an active person because this record is is still live. They haven't withdrawn from my study. And I'm going to say this person is inactive because they withdrawn from my study. And so when I go to send an alert later on, I can send it to all the people that are either not indicated or are like basically have not said that they were inactive. So I have control over sending this to 18 of the 19 people by doing that with an easy trigger. So that's a very nice little trick. Okay, let's go take a look at our rubric. So we added 10, we added more than 10. It says minimum of 10. Now we need to do an audit log that indicates at least 5 triggered notifications. Did I build that? Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to come on the left-hand side and we're going to look at logging. And when we open the logging up, we can, it automatically puts everything in here and it takes a little bit of getting used to figure it out. But basically this is saying that at this time of day, this person imported this field and it's an auto calculation field, right? And on this time, this person updated a record and this is what the record was changed to. Okay, so, and here is a system one. So something that's a notification would be a system thing. So let's try to make this a little smaller. What we could do is we could export it and filter it outside of REDCap, Or I could say, look at all the things that are system items, and I could say automatically schedule a survey, automatically schedule a survey. So I can see that there are tons of surveys that were automatically scheduled for this person. And so is automatically, that's not a notification. That's this one. Audit indicates 5 triggered automated survey invitations. So that's what this is. So where are my notifications? Is there another page? So my guess is it would be when a survey person completed theirs, like a survey respondent. You know, it would probably be wise if I went to see if I actually have that turned on. Okay, I do. I have it turned on for builds. So let's see now. Maybe it might be in notifications. Sometimes you got to search for these things. Nope, not here. Okay. Um, logging. It's got to be here. Huh. Well, not a good sign. I'm gonna say that was a fail. Okay, I have one more place I guess I could look, but this is not where it usually is. This is the invitations that are scheduled for the future. When the cron job goes, it's gonna stop that from going. So I know that's not gonna work. What did I do wrong? This is what happens. So now you're just getting like, because if I did it wrong on my side, you guys are gonna have something wrong on your side. I have a feeling. Okay, I'm gonna pause this and see if I can figure this out and come back to you so you don't have to sit here. Well, I know it went because I went and I checked my emails, and here is the email. So the good news is I know that it works and it sends a notification, but it doesn't put it into the audit trail. And I went and I looked it up, and this particular instance does not have that feature turned on. So I'll be changing the rubric, and so that you don't have that as like as a thing you have to do, because you're not going to be able to do it. So let's go take a look. So this one here is I'm going to end up changing. I'll distribute those 5 points somewhere else within this. Okay, I'll probably put it with these 10, so I'll just make this a 10 point instead of 5. Let's see here. Audit log indicates, okay, that did work. Now we need to build a filter. And how are we going to do that? So let's go and create a report now. On the left-hand side, we go to Data Exports, Reports, and Stats. We're going to hit this button that says Create a New Report, and we're going to say Report. And the first thing we need to do is we got to decide who gets to see this report. If you want it to be all users, you could just say all users. That's usually what occurs, but sometimes you have a really complicated project, or maybe you have certain people that are on your user rights that you don't want them to be able to see certain reports in that case, or maybe you want them to be able to see but not edit the report, like hands off kind of stuff. You can change the reports here, the report options. So the next thing that you would want to do is you're going to decide which fields you want in your report. And they've got there's a few different ways to do this. You could come to the right-hand corner here where it says choose instrument, and you could select the instrument and it'll put all the instrument items on here. So that is an option. Another option you could do is you could come in here and you could say, I want, and you could type in what you want, and then you could say, I want that one right there, right? So you'd pick the one you want. A third option is you could use the drop down button and you could search for the one you want and you could click it on. And then the fourth option is, which is my favorite, you could come over here to where it says quick add, and you could quickly add the items you want. So I want to have the introduction. I do not want the complete status. I don't really care about that. I do want to know the contact information. I don't I what I just want I want this demographic information. I don't need to know who it belongs to, so I don't want to identify the person that way. Um, and then I do want the build information, um, but I don't want the URL. I just want to know if they gave me consent so I can go look at it later. And I do want to know, I don't want to know if they completed it or not. So, and then the only other thing is I want the record status because I have that active, inactive, and I want to show you what can occur. So the first thing I'm going to do, and then you need to kind of pay attention. There's all kinds of crazy options that you can kind of turn on, turn off, that kind of stuff. I could combine my checkboxes into one field. I am going to do that only to make my survey less cumbersome, and I'm not planning to do anything with it later, so it's no big deal. I could have my fields timestamps placed into my table of my report. I could also have any blank items put missing codes automatically. I don't want that. I could remove line breaks, things like that. Okay, step 3 would be filtering. For right this moment, I'm not going to filter just so I can show you what it looks like if you have everybody. And then your filtering comes in 2 different options. I will do this just so you can see the options. So you can have up to 3 live filters. Be careful because if your database is too big and you choose to do live filters, it takes processing time and it could take a while for your report to come up. And then I am curious about their number of builds, and I'm also curious about um, what they consider their difficulty. And I want it to be in order of difficulty, ascending order. So let's save and take a look. I can view my report. I can exit now. It would save it, but it would exit it and take me back to the my reports and experts page, or I can continue editing. So it's like save and stay. So I pressed view report and I can see that there's 19 records that came back of 19 records that were queried. And so if you have a repeatable instance or anything like multiple events or anything like that, this number could be double that or triple that or something like that. It doesn't mean the number of records in the database. It means the number of records that were queried, which could include um, extra lines because of your extra instances, things like that. On the top up here, I can do my live filters to decide if I wanted to quickly like filter them a different way, like say, oh no, take everybody. I only want to see the active people. And so now I only have one person that's active. So one of the 19 came back. Or I could say all the people with blank. Well, that's 17 people. Um, and so maybe I want to say, oh, open up number 17 here, and I want to make sure that this person is an active person. So let's do that. Now on the left-hand side down here, you can get to your report by going to the section that says reports. You can organize your reports. You can also get to your report by coming back up here to data exports, reports, and stats, and it will be in your report list here. And as you have more reports, you can move it or put it in whatever order you want it to. You can view the report again. You can export the report, look at your stats and charts. Let's open that one up. Right now, you can just really quickly see broad pictures of each variable. Now, you will not be able to make your variables go together at this point, but you could just look at each variable individually, and you can get some just quick identifiers. So here you can, quick stats, descriptive stats. So you can see that in this particular case, there's 8 people that said they were statisticians for REDCap, and that's 42%. And so gives you an idea of what you could get out of this particular one. You can also turn this into a different view. So in this case, I'm making this bar chart into a pie chart. And yeah, okay. So let's view the report one more time. And let's just circle down here. So I went and I changed that person to active. So now I have 2 records. And there you can see number 3 is now an active record too. When you're looking at when you're looking at this inside REDCap, you'll notice it says it has the labeled value and the coded value. And if you recall, I said for any checkboxes, put them together. So what it did is it took them and it made like a comma situation for me, and it gave me both codes that correspond with the labeled value in the order they're in. And that made this super like a shorter page all the way down. You can kind of see the big picture of the data. Now I want to edit the report one more time, and this time I want to take this combined checkbox out so I can show you what that looks like. And this time I want to filter it by anybody that has their build where it's not equal to incomplete. So anybody that doesn't have a red button in the build section. So let's view it again that way. And now I have 18 of 19. So there's one of them out there that is lingering with a status of red, incomplete. So what happened here for these particular ones, it's kind of hard to see when I do that, huh? For these particular ones, you can see that this is a checkbox. And what it did is it gave me each individual labeled item in the binary possibility. So number 1 means checked and number 0 means unchecked. Okay, so let's export this data. Let's do it in the raw format so you can see what that looks like. When I do the export, I'm going to say raw, and then I'm going to open it and give it a minute. There is my report in the raw value. Okay, so now let's go back and let's export this in the labeled value. They do have this other thing that's new that where you can send a file, so you could take this file and send it to somebody, which is super nice. So let me just get a little bit closer and you can see what happened this time is when I look at my header, it doesn't have my variable. Instead, it has whatever I labeled that field. And then each of my codes became whatever their label is, the value that they have. Which some people like this view better and then some people like the coded view better. So you get to choose which one you want to look at. Okay, let's close some of these things. And I do think the only other thing is, let's go look here, what we could do. I kind of showed you, oops, I hit the wrong one. The data export reports and stats. I showed you that you could export the entire project when we went to go upload. There are other options here for ways that you could download things. So let's just say for a moment that I want to do R, and I want to remove all my tagged identifiers. And maybe I want to shift all my date values so that I don't have so nobody can come in and identify a person based on a visit date or something like, or a birthday or something like that. But the shift means that everything will be shift together and my mathematical terms will still work. And perhaps I want it in a different format. I really don't. I want it in comma, so I'm going to leave it in comma. And maybe you have other items over here that you want. Let's see here. It says export identifier field. Man, that must be a new feature. I'm gonna turn that off. I don't want that. Whoa. Okay, so it gave me a great big red box because I put the date shift on, and that's just a really important piece to understand or know if that's something you need. Because I'm doing it in R, it's giving me the R programming here, and it's giving me the CSV file. So I could download the CSV file. It looks exactly like my raw file if I open it in Excel. So you can see it looks exactly like my raw file. Same file. But the R file here is what you would really want to be able to look at. And if I were to open it in R, it has, now I get that everybody does this in different locations, but it gave me my code that I could run and pull it straight into R. And if you choose if you choose SAS, it'll do something similar. If you choose SPSS, it'll do something similar. If you choose Stata, it'll do that differently. And then your last option is you could also do the XML file if you wanted to do it that way, which is it'll take the data with the metadata if you do it that way. Okay, now let's go back to our rubric. We have a filtered report. We exported data. We imported data with new records. We got to put it in production. And then here's the most important one. If you didn't do this last week and you lost points on that, don't forget to add me. So let's just make sure that I'm on here. So if I go to user rights, I know I'm on because I logged in. But here I am, BAKG9P. So if you don't have me on your project, make sure I'm on your project. The last piece is to place it into production. So we're going to call this ready to go. And so I'm going to go to my project setup. And we've tested it. We're done with that. And now we need to move to production. So we're going to hit the move to production. This instance has this little box here. The box that's in the CCTST instance looks a little bit different than that. And the next thing you want to do is you want to say, am I keeping my records? Am I deleting my records and starting from scratch? I want to keep my records because this is just a pretend project. But if it was a real project and I had just gotten done testing and I wanted to move into actually collecting, I would delete my records and get rid of all my test records. And now my project is in production. And you can see that here it says project status production, and it has a check mark. If I look under other functionality, it went into development mode. You can see that here. If I come to my project homepage and I take a look at my projects, it will have a box here at the end. So here's my classic build, and here is my checkbox, and it says production mode. Okay, let's just triple check before I stop this that we did all the things we were supposed to do, and I do believe we did. So that is it, and contact me if you have any questions.